Thank you for joining us today for our seminar in the Journey to Science series at Onondaga Community College. The seminar is sponsored by the Bridges to Baccalaureate grant, and today we are welcoming Dr. Alaji Bah. Dr. Bah is an assistant professor at SUNY Upstate Medical University, and he's been there since 2008. Originally, Dr. Bah hails from the Gambia. He did his undergraduate studies at Kentucky State University and majored in chemistry, math, and an associate's in liberal studies. Then he moved on to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, where he completed his PhD in biochemistry and molecular biophysics. He finalized his training as a postdoctoral fellow in Professor Julie Foreman Kay's lab in the Hospital for Sick Children at the University of Toronto. As you're watching the seminar today, if you have any questions, there's a question and answer button at the top. You can submit your questions at any time, and we will be sure to have Dr. Bah answer your questions. Dr. Bah, thank you very much for sharing your time and your story with us. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here, and I look forward to interacting with the students, answering their questions. Yeah. So. Yes, as you mentioned, my name is Alaji Bah. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at Upstate Medical University. So here, I would just like to show my lab before the pandemic in the summer of 2019. This was a year after I started in 2018. This was at our annual picnic, annual summer picnic, and everybody was happy, and here, I just want to emphasize that we have PhD students, undergrads from Syracuse University, and Sadat is a medical student, and between year 1 and year 2, he came to our lab to do some research. And then we have a summer student from through our soft program at Upstate. He came from Pennsylvania, and he spent the entire summer with us in the lab. And then in 2021, during the pandemic, here we are in the front of our the historic Wise-Cotton building. So my lab is on the 4th floor. Is the last lab on the fourth floor. All right. So what I want to do to tell my story, I want to show it literally as a journey, where everything started and all the places I've been to until I came to Syracuse. So I was born in a country called the Gambia. It's one of the smallest countries in Africa. It's so small that the word Gambia cannot be written on Gambia in the map. So you have to write it on the Atlantic Ocean, right? So I grew up there, and I did my elementary education in my high school. And for us, we followed the British system because we were colonized by the British, right? So we have, during that time when I was there, we have 5 years of high school. And then you do 2 more years of high school, but that is very similar to like a community college here in the US. So that's what I did. And then I worked in the Gambia as a lab tech for almost 2 years before coming to the US. So I wanted to say that I've been interested in science all my life since I was a kid. I was very fortunate to love and have the ability to do math and science, right? And I would say that one pivotal stage in my training in Gambia was when I had the opportunity to attend, right, an open doors day at the Medical Research Council, right? So this is a prominent tropical disease research center. It's British, but they have a unit in the Gambia. So we visited that place and they opened their labs, and I saw, scientists wearing lab coats, doing experiments. I was so fascinated by it, and I could see myself, right, working there. I want to say that my parents didn't go to school, neither my mom nor my dad. My siblings and I are the first generation to go to school. So right. So I didn't know what lies ahead for me. In a way, me and my siblings, we are like the trailblazers, right? We don't, we pave the way in a way for ourselves. So when when I had that experience visiting the Medical Research Council campus, and I saw the labs and all the lawns they have, everything is beautiful and perfect. I applied for a job there once I graduated from a high school. And then, fortunately, I was hired, and I came from the coast, but they have a couple of units throughout the Gambia, and the unit that I was sent to work was in the middle of the country. Oh, by the way, the Gambia is just the river and the banks of a river. And it was formed because the British wanted access to the river, because the river goes all the way, to the hinterland of West Africa. Right, so I've never traveled inside this small country, so this was a great opportunity. And the research that I was doing there was on malaria research, trying to look at the causative agent for malaria during the off season of the disease. So this was very, very exciting for me. I spent there almost 2 years, as I mentioned, but I wanted more because I was working on the people with bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees, both Gambians and non-Gambians. So, and I was just like, man, I'm just a high schooler. I want more, because being there and seeing the folks who are doing the research are just like me, kind of told me that I could also do it. So after 2 years, I resigned, right? And then I went to a medical school that was being started in the Gambia, but that wasn't doing well. So I came to the United States to do my undergrad. I went to Kentucky State University, and Kentucky State University is located in Frankfurt, and we'll talk about that. So I just wanted to say that I'm very honored to be here today, having my own lab, coming from one of the poorest countries in the world, a very small country in the Gambia. And anytime I go to scientific conferences and people know that I'm from the Gambia, they don't want to talk about science to me. They want to talk about how did you move from the Gambia to the US and you have your own lab and stuff like that, So yeah, so I'm very, very, I'm honored and grateful, for the opportunity that I have, considering where I started, right? So as I mentioned, I came to Kentucky, right? To do my undergrad. So what was interesting was that in my I-20, which is the document that allows you to get your visa and study in the US, I was a chemistry major. But when I came to Kentucky State University, it's a liberal arts school, right? So most of the chemistry that we were doing, I already kind of did it back home during my A-levels, my advanced level, like an associate's degree, right? So it was kind of boring for me, because it was all like repetition. Then I decided to add another major, mathematics. Again, I've done, calculus and all the stuff since, since I was in the Gambia. I was like, man, this is still boring, Then I decided, somebody mentioned to me that Kentucky State University, they have an honors college. It's called the Whitney Young Honors College. It's named after the civil rights activist, Whitney Young, because Kentucky State University is the only HBCU in the whole state of Kentucky. And it is located in Frankfurt, which is the state capital of Kentucky. So it's between Louisville and Lexington, the two major states, the two major cities in that state. So it's a very, very small school, right? So I did my chemistry, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, Bachelor's Art in Math, and then I decided to do liberal studies. And liberal studies was fascinating to me, right? Because you are learning about human beings, you're learning about philosophy, you're learning about all this stuff you would need, right? You would need to be like a good human. This is the way that I kind of look at it. These are the social sciences, we were learning about all the major events from like 4000 BC all the way to the 1960s. It was just fascinating to me. Although I was an international student, there was a study abroad program, to expose students to know the world. And I took that study abroad program and I visited England, for the winter break of, I think, 2002 or 2003, to learn about, history and visit the places that we read in books and so on and so forth. So that was very, very, very fascinating. Oh, by the way, anytime I see an opportunity, I want to take advantage of it and learn and, make use of it and give back. That's my principle. I take in as much as I can and I give out as much as I can. That's what I've been doing all my career, right? Yeah. So Kentucky was just amazing. I was involved in program, as I mentioned, because some of the science work was easy for me. I became a tutor during my freshman year. I was tutoring people. I was tutoring students, who are higher than me in grade, right? But because I've done the work, right? And I was I was also working in the lab, right? So that provided me with great opportunities, and I tried every summer, right? Instead of working, right? Instead of working at jobs just to make money, I always try to do internship. So my first internship was at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, right? And there, after the end of the summer, I made a poster of the work that I did. And then I presented that work to the Abracam's conference the following fall semester in New Orleans. And whilst I was there, I met one of the directors of the biomed programs at Washington University. So he was asking me about my research, my poster, and so on and so forth, and he encouraged me to apply for the summer program at Washington University. So in my junior year, right, I applied for that and I was accepted. So I went to St. Louis, Missouri to do a summer internship. That's how the Frankfort, Kentucky, Missouri connection started. And then I really liked it. I like the university. It's one of the best universities in the US. A lot of great research being done. But the program where I did my summer program, the program where I did my summer research in was in chemical biology program. But I didn't want to do chemistry. I wanted to do biochemistry. So I talked to my supervisor during the summer, and he encouraged me. He wrote me a letter to apply for the PhD program in the biochemistry and molecular biophysics program, right? And that's how, when I graduated from Kentucky, that's how I moved to St. Louis to do my PhD. What I want to say is that, yeah. So I just want to mention that it's not been a straight line sailing, right? There are some hiccups and bumps and obstacles along the way, right? But I just try to persevere. I try to work hard. I try not to be discouraged, right? So I'll just give you an example, right? I did not have enough, let's say, biology experience, right, during my undergrad, because I was doing more mathematics and chemistry work and liberal studies, right? So when I went to the biochemistry program, my advisor suggested that, hey, why don't you go to the undergrad campus? Because we are at the medical school campus. Why don't you go to the undergrad campus and take cell biology classes there, right? So that you can kind of beef up, your biology background. So I did that, right? Whilst I'm still a PhD student, right? And then when I finished that, the following year, I audited the cell biology course for the grad school, right? Just for me to get a good grip, right, of the molecules and the cellular environment, right, that the molecules I'm interested in are in, right? So that's how I kind of try to put myself in a position to succeed. So my PhD was in the laboratory of Professor Enrico Di Cera. Right? He's a structural biophysicist, and we were trying to understand blood clotting, right? The proteins that are involved in blood clotting. How do they do that? Because once you cut yourself, under normal circumstances, within seconds or minutes, the bleeding stops. Why? Why is it so fast? And then we know there are folks who bleed. They cannot do that rapid response. And then we also know that there are folks who will have clots in places where they're not supposed to have it. So I was kind of intrigued by that, right? But I'm also interested in chemistry, doing things in a test tube, whereby things are in a controlled manner, And I wanted to say that one other thing that I wanted to mention is that my dad, right, always wanted me to be a medical doctor, But when I went to WashU, I was like, WashU has one of the biggest MD-PhD programs in the country. So I decided to do the MCAT just to see how it feels. But when I was doing the MCAT, I knew that this wasn't for me. I really, really knew that this wasn't for me. That I don't want to be a medical doctor. I want to be a research doctor, if you will, a PhD. So I had to convince my dad and tell him that this is what I want to do. And fortunately for me, he agreed in a way. So yes, so that's what I was doing during my PhD, trying to understand how salt, affects some of these clotting factors. We try to solve the structures so that we can see what's going on at the atomic level, right? So after I got my PhD, right, I was interested more in the structures of these biomolecules, right? And during my PhD, I was using X-ray crystallography. This is like, we take a protein, crystallize it, it will form this beautiful crystal, and we'll shoot X-rays at these crystals, and the diffraction of the X-ray literally will kind of give us what the structures, the underlying structures are, right? So I wanted to learn more about that. I wanted to solve structures of proteins and biomolecules that are not in crystals, but now in solution. This is what led me to go to Toronto, because Toronto and New York City, right? These are some of the best places to do solution magnetic resonance studies. So I went to Toronto in Julie Foreman's case lab, and then I started to learn NMR spectroscopy, right? And whilst I was there, I knew for sure I wanted to have my own lab one day, but it is so challenging, right? It is so challenging. Okay, so let me, oh yeah, I did not change my slide. Sorry, Missouri. I'm sure people don't need this thing here. The audience here doesn't need this, but yeah, so Ontario, Canada, right? So yeah, so from when I was in Toronto, that's where I knew that, look, I want to have my own lab. My initial contract with Julie was only for 3 years, but as the 3 years timeline was approaching, I knew that that wasn't enough for me to get, my own research lab in a competitive, top tier research university in the US or in Canada, right? So I had to spend about 8 years in Canada for me to be able to learn a job, right? So it was tough. I know a lot of my colleagues, after a few years, they kind of gave up, and went to industry and do some other stuff that they love to do. But for me, I was just persistent. I was like, you know what, I will try and try and try, So I worked very hard, and Julie and Lewis's and labs in Toronto, they were just excellent places to do research, right? Both to be trained and then opportunities to train other people too, right? So yeah, so in 2017, I interviewed, I applied for 12 places, and I got 4 interviews, and upstate was just the best, When I visited here, it was in January, middle of winter, but just, the environment, the way people were responding to me, the way I interacted with the people, I just knew that this was my top choice. And then the following year, 2018, I moved over to upstate, right? So I've zigzagged, back to the US, right? So what I want to say is that when I came to upstate, right, I try to do an integrative collaborative research, right? So usually labs will have their own thing that they're doing, and they will just have 1 or 2 collaborators. But for me, I have so many collaborators. Right now I have 5 PhD students. I had 2 postdocs in my lab before. They've moved to industry. I have 3 undergraduates right now. One is at SU. She's graduating this year, after working in my lab for 4 years, She's going to medical school. She got, 2 acceptances. So I don't know where she will go, but for sure, she got an acceptance at USC Medical School and Georgetown. So those are great places. I have a student right now from Lemoyne, right? He started in my lab by doing credit, right? But when the semester was done, then he was working in my lab as a summer intern, right? And then I have 1 student from ESF, but this student was originally from OCC. When I hired her last summer, I knew of her from OCC because I had some contacts, folks that I talked to at OCC, So yeah, so I'm a beneficiary of this, right? And then I have one postbac students. So this fellow was in my lab for 2 years. He's from SU also, but he wants to go to medical school, but he didn't have time during his undergrad to apply for medical school. So he wanted to take a break, do his prepare for his MCAT and apply. So yeah, so he will apply for medical school this year. And then I have one research assistant, right? So I just want to say that I have a lot of collaborators at Upstate. I'm trying to build a core facility. This is a protein peptide core facility, right? And this core facility, for sure, is to do science and make all these biomolecules. But the other thing that I want to use it for is to have students from the community, high school, community colleges like OCC, SU, Lemoyne, and so on and so forth, to come and work in this place, quote unquote, work in this place, right? So they'll be trained, to do something, right? To be part of the process, the production process, right? So ultimately, this is what I want to do. I'm trying to get grants from NSF, so that students who come to my lab, I don't want anybody to volunteer. I want people to work and get paid, right? Because I feel like, if you say volunteer, only certain people, right, may be able to afford that. Other people may not. So I just want to create like a leveling field, right? So that whoever comes in to work, they will clock in and then they will get paid for the hours that they work. So in addition to the Upstate and SU collaboration that I also have collaboration all over the country. In Texas, in Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, in India, Poland, and also in Canada. So I just want to say that, right? So here I put in some of the facilities that I go to, right? So the NMR spectroscopy that we do at Upstate, we do it at ESF, but we also have access to the MagLab laboratories in Florida. And then also, if you want to do X-ray crystallography or X-ray scattering, right? Small angular light scattering, we can also do it at the synchrotron at Ithaca, right? So there is a lot of interactions going on. And then I and my students, we attend conferences, during the summer here at Upstate, and then we do national and international conferences. I know the pandemic kind of tampered, traveling, but things are going back to normal. So one of my first grad students is going to Switzerland this summer to present her work, right? So these are all great opportunities, to travel, to meet other folks, to learn and to teach, and to discover something new, because we are curious beings, as we all know, right? We want to learn, we want to know about nature, we want to know about our own nature as well, right? So research, I feel like it's a great opportunity for that, right? So as I mentioned, I'm interested in studying the structure and function of biomolecules, usually proteins, but I'm delving now into RNA and as well as DNA, right? Trying to understand how these proteins, function. Right? As we all know, living things are made up of biomolecules and their complexes. So we're trying to understand that at a fundamental level, because we know that when this biomolecule malfunction, we have disease, and some of these diseases are genetic, right? These are mutations that happen spontaneous or caused by something from the environment, or infectious diseases. We are in a pandemic, and we all know when these foreign agents, these viruses and bacteria come into our bodies, what they do, right? And how we fight back, trying to understand that. And then from research, we can use these biomolecules as targets to develop novel or effective therapeutics to fight disease. I just want to mention that, coming from the Gambia, one of the smallest and poorest countries in the world, one thing that I do know is that good research equals to good life. It's so amazing that we had a pandemic, and within 9 months or 11 months, a vaccine, we were able to find the cure, right? And a lot of people will be like, oh, it's too fast to get the vaccine, I'm like, no, this work has been done by many scientists before we even know about COVID-2, right? Because it's all about the technology, and then, developing technology, developing techniques, figuring out how things work, so that whenever we need them, we can put things together, right, to solve problems, save life, So yeah, so research, this is why I'm very, very, very passionate about research, so yeah. So anyway, so this is just about proteins, showing that there are different kinds of proteins, with different structures, different flexibility, and we can look at this thing at atomic resolution, like I'm showing here, right? So I call this thing the spaghetti meatball model, right? Some proteins are very, very stable. They're just like meatball, right? You see them now, they come together, they are very stabilized. And then you have other protein that my lab and Julia and others specialize in. These are just like spaghetti. They don't have a single conformation. They are dancing. They are very flexible and dynamic. But, nature uses both. Nature uses both to do, to do its biological function, to maintain health and so on and so forth, right? So yeah, so that's what I kind of have, and I'll be very, very happy, to answer any questions, So yeah, hopefully we have enough time for discussions and answering questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us, and literally in maps. There's a question, and it's, as a student at OCC just starting out in the sciences, how do I get an internship? How do I get to be in a lab like yours? What do I do?
Yes, that's a very, very good question. So number one, right? Go to the websites. If you're interested in SU or OPSI, anywhere you're interested in, go to their websites. Try to figure out what you are interested in. If you're interested in biology, go to the biology department. Write one nice email, have it edited, and send it to every lab in that department, right? But make sure that you change the names, okay? Just to make sure, right? Send it to them, give them a few days, follow up, right? So that is one way, right, of getting into labs. The other way is that talk to your maybe your admissions office or some of the faculty like Justin and others, right, who are coordinating, who knows the programs that are happening in upstate at SU and so on and so forth. Talk to them and tell them what you're interested in, right? If you don't want to email people or folks directly, you can have your mentor, your undergrad mentor, right? Contact them on your behalf. That's another approach, right? And then the other approach is that, right, there are programs that are already out there. Let's say in the upstate website, right? We have our soft program that has been advertised and there's a deadline and so on and so forth, right? You can apply through programs and those programs will take you to labs. So the point I'm trying to make to say is that there are many ways, and if you know anybody working at upstate, tell them that, hey, I want to intern, I want to work at upstate. Talk to them. They will hook you up with somebody. It's all about network. It's all about connection, right? So yeah, so there are many ways. Those are just some that just come to mind, because I know the Hatis, who is the student that I have from OCC. I never know her. She never contacted me, but I knew her through one of the faculty at OCC, right? She's the one who connected me to Hatis, and then I interviewed her, and the rest is history. Yeah.
What if a student has very little hands-on experience? Say this is a first-year student who has maybe finished biology 1 and 2, and they've never really been inside of a research lab. Can they still come and talk to you?
Absolutely, because everybody has a first time. This is the way that I look at it. Everybody has a first time, right? That you've never. This is the first time I'm doing this, because nobody comes to this world with the experience of their career, right? So you have to start from somewhere. And for me, what I would say is this, right? I don't want to say a bad thing about any lab or something, but what I want to say is that there are some labs that are very good for mentoring, right? For people who are, who've never set foot in a lab, they know how to guide you. They know how to kind of babysit you and hold your hand until you are, until you are good, until you are strong, let's say. And then there are some labs, they just want to have folks who are quote unquote independent, who will come in and quote unquote work. But for me, I look at it as training. You know, I look at it I look at it as training. So your goal is not to take any lab, right, that offers you opportunity. Talk to the people in that lab. Talk to the PI and talk to them like an equal, like a colleague, and say, hey, you've accepted me into your lab, right? Or I want to join your lab, but I don't have any experience. How will you train me? Are you going to be patient with me? If I mess up and I break a glass, or my things do not work, how are you going to react? Do your homework. Let me just put it that way, and don't be afraid, because you don't wanna start into a lab and get a bad experience there. It will leave a sour taste in your mouth, and you may never go back to science, right? So make sure that you do your homework. We as scientists, all we do is just asking questions. So ask the questions. Okay, don't be shy, don't be timid, because guess what? If I'm not ready to answer your questions in the interview, right? Do you think I'll be ready to, mentor you the way I should mentor you? No, right? So this is the idea. Find the best place, talk to people who train there, go find out about those people. You interested in my lab? Go talk about me. Hey, that guy, I'm interested in. What do you think? And they will tell you. They'll be like, oh no, don't go near him. They will say it. So yeah. So do your homework. I will tell you the reason why I'm saying this. I will not say the place where I had this bad experience, but I had one bad research experience. Right. So this postdoc was supposed to train me. For sure, he gave me all the instructions on what to do. I did that. It did not work. This guy was so angry at me. He wasn't friendly at all. He was mean, But for me, I knew that I'm here to be trained and I'm doing my level best. And that's all I could do, my level best. I cannot do more than my best. I realized that early on in my life, right? So this guy, he told me, you are good for nothing, right? So he's gonna do the experiment. I'm like, fine, do it. He tried the experiment did not work. You know what he told me? He told me, I am so terrible that even when good people are trying to do the experiment, it doesn't work. He said, I need to go to the oracles and have me bathe so that my, just mean things. This guy was telling me, just mean, just mean, I remember telling one of my colleagues what this guy said to me. One of my colleagues was so angry. He told me, is it not the whole purpose of science is for us to stop going to the oracles and use science, and he advised me that this guy is, the word that I don't want to say, so forget about him and so on and so forth, and that's how I see it. So the point I'm trying to make is that find the right place. It's not just good enough to be like, oh, I'm in a lab, right? Make sure that lab is a good fit for you. And if it is not, right, speak up, right? Speak up, talk to the PI, talk to the person mentoring you, and try to readjust. And if you try everything doesn't work, hey, go find somewhere else. If science is what you want to do, go find a place that, that want to have you and train you and so on and so forth, right? Because for me personally, I just separate the two, the training and the training and the working. You don't expect, right, somebody new coming and just start working. No, they have to be trained. And all of us have been trained one way or another. Yeah. So this is what I would say. I know I gave a long winding answer, but I think it's a very, very, very important question actually. Yeah, because there are some experiences that you will have. You're just gonna be like, oh, this is not for me, and you will leave the entire science this thing. Nope. Nope. So anyway, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer and that sage advice. It is true. There will be some roadblocks, and it sounds like you succeeded despite the postdoc trying to discourage you. and put you down. Well, thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your day to speak to our students. Any parting words for our students as we finish up?
Yes. So what I wanna say is that there's no map. I can write my story, right, on a book. It will have a beginning, chapter 1 till the end, right? End of the book. And you will think that everything is linear and determined and fine and stuff. No. At every step, right? I never heard of Kentucky. I don't know Kentucky. But an opportunity just came. I went there. The point I'm trying to make is that just follow life. Just do your level best. Every day, do your level best. Be humble, right? Be humble. Reach out for help. But to reach out for help, also you gotta look back and help. It's a two-way street, right? There are always people below you that you can help and people above you that can help you, right? So yeah, so I would just say, just follow life and just compete with yourself, right? And say that yesterday, this is where I was. Today, I'm still there or I'm above. I just want to be above where I was. Just keep on competing yourself, and don't compete others because they may have skills and opportunities that you don't have. You're just going to be miserable, because they will succeed and you don't know why they're succeeding. Just compete yourself. Try to make yourself better. Compete yourself. Compete yourself. Push yourself, but don't break yourself. After all, we are all human. Know that you are human. Push, but don't break. If it's painful, stop, slow down. Right? So yeah, so this is my my parting words, Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Bah, for sharing your time and your story with us. If any of our students would like to either get in touch with Dr. Bah or you have an interest in pursuing an internship, feel free to get in touch with me. My email is right up on the screen, and we hope to see you back for our next seminar series in the fall. Thank you. Bye-bye.